Good evening, folks. Tonight you're watching Common Sense, and I have the first selectman of Bethel, Bob Burke, here. Bob, thanks for coming down.
Pleasure to be here.
And a special guest I've got his running mate, Bill Slifkin, who's running for second selectman.
Nice to
Bill,
see you, Bob.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
This is your first time on Common Sense.
Yes, it is. I'm excited to be here.
Now, remember what I said. We have conversations here. We just talk about the issues.
Right.
It's less of an interview, more of a conversation. So you can joke all you want.
Okay. That's fine with me.
Just keep it clean.
Okay.
Okay? Anyways, folks, let's get right down to probably why you're watching this show tonight. You're curious to find out maybe what's behind this recent arrest charge that Mr. Burke, unfortunately, has been charged with. And, you know, before Bob reads a statement, and frankly, you know, he's tied up in a situation where he's got to be careful because it's an ongoing situation. So he's got some legal boundaries, but I'm sure he'll stay within those boundaries, and we'll just dance around that as much as possible.
I know this is a bit of a shock to a lot of people.
Right.
Me and my family in particular. It's not a nice thing, and it doesn't show the best of Bethel. It actually shows the worst of Bethel. I've retained a very good attorney, and he has advised me, and we have made a release to the Danbury News-Times. They had questions, and I'm going to do exactly what my attorney has told me. And if you don't mind, I'll read the announcement that I gave to the News-Times. I mean, I've actually had Channel 8 News apparently trying to catch me today. They banged on my door, and I'm up here, and it's very much upset my wife.
Well, guess what? They've apparently banged on Bill Slifkin's door and upset his wife.
They've been at my door, and my wife is also very upset.
And they've apparently upset my wife as well. They banged on my door. So, I mean...
And I'm sure there's others.
Well, you know,
but
I don't want you to...
What's going on here is the worst of Bethel. It's the worst I've ever seen.
It's very interesting. It's really crazy.
Let me just let me read this statement.
Why don't you read that?
And this encompasses the whole thing.
Yeah.
Upon being notified by the state police of an outstanding warrant stemming from a misdemeanor charge, I turned myself in this morning, and today's the 24th day of August, and was released without bond on my own recognizance. They were very nice to me over there. They thanked me for being nice to them. I apologize for the inconvenience, and we went forward from there. I intend vigorously to defend my innocence against a misdemeanor charge. I do not know the details of the allegations, but I am more than 100% certain and confident that the accusations is without merit and baseless. Anyone that knows me, and this is very important, anyone that does know me knows that I have always been very passionate about sticking up for the little guy. I've always protected the little guy. I pride myself in that. And when it comes to clearing my own good name and my reputation, I will spare no expense, and I mean that very sincerely. I will go broke defending my good name or effort to do that. I do not intend to change any of my political campaign in any way. I look forward to clearing my name and running on a record of accomplishments, because I have accomplished more than any selectman that I know of in recent history. First, to my fellow Republicans, and then to the general electorate of the town of Bethel, who are entitled to the truth, and they will have the whole truth.
Thank you, Bob.
And that's all I can say. I'd like to really elaborate here.
Right, but it's not the time.
I know, Bob. I know he can't.
It's not the time. You know, it's one of those things.
And he's not allowed to. But I'm here to support him. I stand behind him 100%. I always have. I always will. I know he's innocent of all these allegations.
Right.
And I'm convinced that it's politically motivated.
Yeah. I think, for the viewers out there, I'm compelled to really try and clarify for your purposes what this charge really is. It's a second-degree harassment charge. It's a Class C misdemeanor. Essentially, there's three possibilities here. I think the first possibility is that you use obscene or vulgar language in a threatening fashion. I don't think that's the issue here. The second one is if you communicate repeatedly via faxing or emailing or some other electronic means that would be construed as threatening or harmful or alarmist. That would be more or less be done with the intent to alarm or harm.
Right.
The third way is to make repeated phone calls using a telephone, again with the intent to harm or alarm a recipient. So it's one of those three, and I suspect it's probably the third one because you don't really email or fax.
It's not to harm and alarm, it's to harass.
Right. Well, not to spend too much time on the details, but you're going to find out more of the details, I guess, when you go for that arraignment hearing on September 8th or so. Or
you got to remember, I turned myself in, and I received a call. I went in at 9:15 this morning. I had a 9:30 appointment. And I went in, and they were very cordial to me. They were very apologetic to me. But when the state police gets a complaint, and the state police should have had it, not the local police department, they have to act on it, and they just bring it and turn it over to the state's attorney. And because the state police turn it over, on a local level, this would have been handled that somebody trying to maybe is mad at somebody, and that can't be done.
Right. The thing that I find...
I really can't talk about it.
Okay, that's fine. So, I'm just going to say say this, and then we'll move on. What I do find strange about this particular complaint, it apparently dates back to December 30th of last year, or before that. That's what the paper said. We'll know more, I guess, next week. But the bottom line is, the question I have that's circling through my head is, why did it take 8 months to file a simple misdemeanor charge? Given the fact that both of you are in a very contested Republican primary in 3 weeks.
Right.
Given that fact, you're in the middle of a primary season, the silly season as we call it, I have to suspect that there are political motivations as to why this is being brought up now. I also wonder why it took so long. If there was any considerable content or any real value to this particular allegation, why wasn't it brought immediately to an arrest warrant months ago? That part there really troubles me, and I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of the truth shortly. But Bob, I feel for you. It's a personal matter.
Let me say this. Yeah. Imagine being me, being the selectman of the town you love, and have this happen to you.
Yeah. I can't even imagine that.
Well, but I'm going to tell you something, what happens from this. I've had 2 children of my own. I have 4 stepchildren, and I raised 2 nephews. And of course, this is all over, the newspaper. Channel 8 News. Can you imagine Channel 8 News?
Well, they're still trying to find us tonight.
All right, but I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that part's funny.
My nephews have called me, Uncle Bobby, we love you. My stepchildren have called me, Pop, we love you. My own 2 children have called me, say, you taught us everything we know to be right and decent. It's not right, we love you. My wife has told me she loves me and would stand behind me for anything. I took care of her 4 children, and those were her 2 nephews. My brother has called me and let me know that he loved me. I got a call tonight from Joseph Castle, who went to kindergarten with me and went all through grade school, and probably has the highest IQ of anybody that ever came out of Bethel. And God bless Joe Castle, because tonight he said, Bobby, I'll do anything for you in any way, shape, or form. And I knew him and met him. He was 4 years old when he went to kindergarten.
There's no question in my
So
mind.
there's certain things that... Channel 8 News had a man on television tonight, Mr. Jones, and they just stopped him on the street. And you know what he said? This is the best selectman we ever had. I'm just Bobby Burke from Greenwood Avenue. I'm not that smart a person. I'm a human being that loves Bethel and has tried to do the best I possibly can for the town of Bethel. And you know what? People want to hurt me for that.
It's very sad. It really is. You know what scares me, Bob?
In 4 years, have I called anybody a name?
Well, I don't know if I've seen that or not, but you know what scares me, Bob, is this: is that the veracity that these people have. It's like a mob mentality. It's like rabid dogs in trying to bring you down. And I'm talking about people in your own party.
Oh.
You know, your own town committee. And I'm also talking about the Democrats, because I know they've also been...
I don't know which is worse.
But with the veracity that they've been doing this, the evilness and the intent, and just, basically they've been practicing a very, very elevated form of harassment as well, organized harassment. How can anyone possibly conscionably vote for these people? I mean, this is how they behave, and they expect the voters to vote? This is, it's sad. It's sad.
Look forward to continuing my campaign. And let me explain to you what's going to happen this year that I don't think has ever happened before. You're going to have nothing. I'm a guy that says, tell them the truth and let them vote. Bill, how many times have I told you that?
I would say about
3,000?
3,000, 5,000.
Right.
Almost every day, every week.
You both have blue eyes, you know that?
Yeah, well, I know.
That's probably why you picked him.
I did.
Blue eyes.
No,
Are you
but
serious?
you know why I picked him and wanted to run away?
Yeah, tell us.
For 3 years, he has been in my office every day. This is a gentleman that they name baseball fields after, and he always waves his hand at me and tells me, "Yeah." They name You know who they name? They name baseball fields after Abe Mitchell, Ray Crow,
Al Leonard,
Bill Slifkin,
John Cleary,
Yeah.
Bill Pullen. Yeah.
These are great men. Bill Pullen is about $25 short of raising $1 million for the Jimmy Fund.
Right.
All right? This is like Charlie Hurd, Leroy Steib, Ed Rockwell, Charlie Steck, Miss Lewis,
They're pillars of the community.
Mr. Morgan. They just redid the Berry School with their own funds, their own time, their own money.
Right.
I mean, and they're calling these...
Yeah. It's inexplicable to me the way that with the veracity that they're vilifying you, and they're also vilifying, and we're talking about the blogs here.
Both
and
sides.
I know it's insane. And folks, let me sort of justify or explain to you why this is really happening. A man with the record that he has, and frankly, Slifkin, you're part of it, Bill. You are part of this record because without you, the high school would not have been
Never
finished
would have gotten Bill without him.
and on budget. But with the record that you have, the public record you have, there is absolutely no way that anyone could beat you in the political arena in this election season, because the voters understand that. The voters understand that you gave them the lowest tax increases in the last year, 4 years, 10 years, 20 or 30 years, over the last 4 years. The voters understand that in the worst economic times in the last 60 years, you have been there to at least on a local level ease their pain and their anxiety. The federal government might be out of control, which they are. The state government can't pass a budget.
We do not have a state budget.
Right, because they can't stop spending money.
But they can't agree, and the greed and the arrogance of not listening to the people. Now, let me tell you about Bethel. We get $8 million a year from the state of Connecticut.
Special interests, Bob.
None of our neighbors get $8 million.
Special interests. What don't you do?
I don't listen to special interests.
Who are the people attacking
Right down to my own town committee.
Who are the people attacking,
It's all
Bob?
special interests. It's all.
Can we name them? I mean, it's pretty obvious to me who they are. Anyone attached to special interests in this town is absolutely upset with Bob Burke, because Bob Burke doesn't necessarily care and has exhibited that for the last 4 years about special interests. Number one, your own party. Paul Sadkowski, in a news article last week,
Spoke about
laid out
being-
and said that, well, he was compliant the first 2 years.
And now he's
but
not.
now he's not compliant. Folks, the definition of compliant, look that up in your dictionary, and you'll be amazed by what that really means. Obedient, subservient. Bob Burke was subservient and obedient to the
That's
town
not-
committee?
I am
And now
subservient
you're not.
and obedient to the people of Bethel.
Thank you. Thank you. Folks, don't forget that. Don't forget that, because this is one of the reasons why he's done what he's done. And frankly, why Bill, you have done that as well. Because these two gentlemen are not subservient to the Republican Town Committee, who at this point is pulling out all stops to vilify them, okay?
No.
And the Democrats
I
as well.
respect the Republican Party on a whole. The people of Bethel, the Charlie Stecks, the Tullio Blardinellis, the Bill Slifkins, the Charlie Hurd, the Leroy Stibe, and I'll keep naming the Morgan boys. I mean, I can keep naming many, the Gotkins, Ellen Anderson, John Anderson, probably one of my best friends
The
in the
regular
whole
people,
world.
the regular voters.
These are Republican people in the cloth and the cut of Abraham Lincoln.
The people out there expected to vote for someone. They do every 2 years. That'll represent their interests, the best interests of Bethel, and not the special interests. And you know what? Very rarely do they get that particular privilege or that treat. Very rarely. They take a chance every 2 years to vote for someone who sounds like, who promises like they're going to finally represent them.
Rhetoric.
And for the last 4 years, they haven't gotten the rhetoric, they've gotten the results.
I told them what I would do, and I did what I told them.
Absolutely.
Right down to putting the budget on the highest election turnout, which is the selectmen's election in the town of Bethel, 5,000 people turnout. The only other place you could put the referendum would be on a presidential election.
Let me ask you, Bob. Okay, I'm sorry, Bill.
No, think about what he did. When he took office, he said he was going to get the high school done. And that was just stuck in all kinds of problems. He identified the problem, he removed the building committee, and everybody went crazy. And he said,
It's like they're going crazy tonight.
that's right.
Yeah.
And he said, I have a solution. He appointed a new building committee, and we got it done on time, on budget, in spite of all the hoopla that was there before. This is a man that gets things done, and that's why I want to run with
In
him.
the last election,
But there was a mob mentality back then, too.
they
Absolutely.
called OSHA
Right.
and turned in the high school building committee.
Yeah.
My opponent called OSHA on his own town.
Right. Right. Unbelievable.
But that's just an example of what he gets done.
Yeah. Unbelievable, you know?
Now a complaint was put into the state police.
When?
Last year sometime.
Oh, well, we'll get to the bottom of that next week, hopefully. Absolutely.
As I can speak about it, I will be very happy to.
You know what? One thing I'm confident about is that you will go above and beyond the call of duty to be as truthful as possible, probably to the consternation of your lawyer, so you'll have to work that out with him.
Now listen, I grew up with this gentleman
Right.
too. This is another fellow I grew up with. This man is a Dartmouth lawyer.
Right.
He's a very good lawyer.
Right.
And he says, you know, you're too honest.
Well, I think that could be part of the problem here, because frankly what's going on here is they criticized, for example, in a show recently that Sadkowski and Krabus did, your opponents, your Republican opponents, they criticized your management style, and they brought up this Janice Jordan scenario. There's attorneys, the assistant superintendent Janice Jordan. But before I say anything else,
I never spoke about that.
Yeah.
I should have spoken about that.
well, maybe we should
could've-
flush that out. a
I'll
little
speak
bit.
about that
Yeah.
right now.
Let me ask you this, before you, lay that out, okay? What I personally want to say this, is that they talked about your management style. Janice Jordan doesn't work for you,
No.
okay? But guess what?
But she does work for Mr. Krabus,
And-
and she does work for Mr. Knickerbocker.
And you work for the people of Bethel.
Right.
So if a taxpayer, if a parent comes into your office and has a legitimate complaint and is very alarmed about something that's going on down the hall and
More
upstairs,
than very alarmed.
What is your...
to the point of she wanted the police involved.
What did you do as your primary responsibility as a first selectman? You could have passed the buck. You could have said, listen, ma'am, this is not
I said,
my
let's
problem.
go up, and she did not want to confront the superintendent or the assistant, and the superintendent was not there because that's where I was going.
You tried to do that, and they said
Yes, he was not there. He was out of town.
See,
and
they
I
said-
don't know if Mr. Knickerbocker and Mr.
Well, see, that's another
Kravis
problem.
know that he was out
They
of town.
shoot from the hip.
But-
So many
but-
statements they make are not just verified.
And I'm not going to tell you the woman's name,
Right.
but she was so upset about a survey that was giving from high school down to the 6th grade, with the approval of the superintendent of schools and the assistant superintendent of schools.
Sexually explicit survey.
It talked about oral sex to a 6th grader.
Okay, we don't want to go any further, but that's basically...
But that's what it did, and there was more things in there on top of that. I went upstairs with her. I asked to see the survey. I got treated as if I was a stormtrooper.
Right from the get-go.
Right from the get-go. I got told I was abusive and I was not going to be able to push anybody around, and I said, well, this is very simple. I need to see this. I have a very serious complaint that's been lodged here. The particular mother of 2 children, one that was in high school and one that was in the 6th grade. It was approved by the principals, apparently. It was brought forward supposedly through the youth person, our youth center director,
Right.
and the one of the agencies that is in charge, alcohol abuse and drug addiction,
Right.
that kind of stuff, New England, whatever, that's
Yeah.
local to our area, on a grant. It's a very reputable surveying company. With the complaint being hired and the way I was treated and abused and called abusive by the Mrs. Jordan, I called the chief of police. I went against the wall. I put my arms crossed like this, and I was not going to be called, some kind of an aggressive person. I had the chief of police come up. There's an incident report that was filed, and he interviewed everybody that was there, including me and Dr. Jordan. And, a report was filed through our detective bureau. So anybody that wants to know the truth can get that.
Okay, well, maybe that's what they ought to do instead of...
Well, and let me ask
Maybe
you
Mr.
this.
Kravis and Mr.
Mr.
Zetkowski
Kravis,
do that.
Mr. Zetkowski, and Mr. Knickerbocker, I don't think knew anything about this survey, and it was not run through the Board of Education. And before I would do that as a superintendent, I would certainly go to my boss, elected by the people, to be my boss.
What does that say about their management style?
Well, they're going to be better than I am.
What does that say about their
They
management
will be
style?
better than I am.
They allowed that kind of a survey to go
Well,
through
they'll-
without being,
but-
because they have a rubber stamp mentality, and that's part of the
And they
problem.
have 5-year plans.
Right.
And they're going to bring in economic, industrial development to Bethel.
Right.
Well, I've served with one of them men for 4 years. Where's my economic development? What has he done in 4 years with me?
Well, Bob, you answered in a previous show. You answered that the number one way of bringing in more business,
Is a good tax base,
and that's what you've shown.
and I've done that.
And people come into this town and they say the first thing they want to see is what's the tax rates? How high? How fast are they climbing? Are they stable or are they rising like crazy?
And in 4 years, I've had to work with Toll Brothers. I've had to work with several housing developers. My own colleagues on the Republican town commit that were on planning and zoning took the industrial park on Worcester Street and turned it into a residential area.
Right.
That now is quarter-acre zone and will end up with over 400 houses.
There's a lot of hypocrisy there.
Who do you think worked with the developers to create a housing situation that was age restricted?
You did.
Who do you think worked with Toll Brothers on Reservoir Street? They're going to build it, they own the property, and it was going to happen. To reduce it from 128 units to 62 units that are selling in this economy.
Right. You did. But let me tell you, who do the people of Bethel love the most and know that if they have a legitimate issue or problem, they can count on coming to the first selectman's office and who will be in their corner? Some people talk about being in their corner.
I didn't realize.
You look out for the little
My
guy.
phone has not stopped ringing with people that have called me
Upset
from
about
near and hugely upset.
Right. They know it's a political witch hunt. That's what this is.
I call it what you want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not looking for you to respond to that particular thing because you're in a box. But Bill, we haven't spent that much time on you tonight, and I apologize.
That's okay.
You've got a sterling record.
This is a bit unusual.
This is
You've
very
got a
unusual.
sterling record.
Sterling, they
and,
named baseball fields after
I think
the show.
I think it's important for the people of Bethel to realize that this campaign will continue. I'm involved in your campaign. I always have been. We're very calm, cool as a cucumber, as they might say. We don't get affected by too much. It's very upsetting and disheartening. When I think about the veracity of the attacks, and I just want the people to understand that.
Let me
the accusers.
Let me say this real quick too. This has been going on
for months,
for a
years,
long time.
You've had a bullseye from the moment you got in office.
Gets bigger every day.
They put a bullseye on your back. These people don't respect you.
I have been accused of crashing weddings, being arrested in Rhode Island,
I know, the rumors are
Massachusetts.
rampant. Let's just leave it alone. You know what? You'll have your day in court, Bob. And the people of this town love you a little more and have a little more faith in you as a person. They're not going to get affected by this.
I've been told I get angry.
They also, well, you have a darn good reason to be angry. You know what? Lesser people than you would have gotten a lot angry a lot sooner because this job almost isn't worth it with the amount of hatred that gets focused on you.
I was not.
I know that, and I know that was one of the reasons you weren't going to run because you felt the hatred. It was palpable.
They want
all
to
I can
hurt
say
my
is
family.
we're out of time, Bob. But you know what, folks? Next week, watch us again. We're going to continue this conversation. Hope you enjoyed it and got some information straight from the source. Thank you and good night.